Quite something, Robbo. Pep Guardiola saying in this competition, tactics aren't the most important things.
Well, when I was watching the game, and I watched it over again today, the one thing that was evident is that whenever Lyon had time on the ball, their front players were trying to run in behind Manchester City. When Manchester City's centre-halves had lots of time on the ball and could pick out forward pass, the two front players didn't make forward runs. They were waiting for the ball to be developed out to wide areas, then they'd try and make runs, and there was no passes on for the centre-halves. So Manchester City had lots of possession without ever going anywhere in that first half. But tactics are an important part of the game, and he would always say they're an important part of the game. That's what he's brilliant at doing. That's why he's been the top manager for years, because he's got his tactics absolutely right. He creates overload in certain areas of the field. That's all tactics. But yesterday, in the game, they didn't make forward runs, the front players. Lyon's did. Every time they had ball in midfield, Lyon's players made forward runs. And that was the key difference between the two sides.
How much does Pep have to take responsibility for this defeat, Robbo?
I think he has to take quite a bit of responsibility. I'm not sure I can understand what he's saying, playing 3 versus 2 at the back. But then if you take away the creativity from your midfield, you're not going to keep possession. So when you looked at the midfield players, it was an even match in midfield. Suddenly, you're not the Man City that you normally are. You're not playing the patterns of play that you're normally doing. You know, I think that when Mahrez plays out on the right-hand side, Laporte knows that he can hit that big diagonal. And as soon as that diagonal is going, Kevin De Bruyne keeps making those runs. Well, that wasn't happening in the first half because they were playing the different system. And there were no patterns of play. There was no understanding about that, what they were trying to do. So I think he has to take a little bit of the criticism for changing the tactics. But he didn't need to change the tactics.
Shaka, as Stevie put it so eloquently yesterday, he overthunk it.
Yeah, absolutely he did. I will go further to what Robbo said. I think Pep Guardiola had to take a lot of responsibility. Listen, I get this that sometimes it's not all about tactics, but when you come into a game as heavy favourites as City were against Lyon, sometimes you have to act like the favourite. It seemed to me that Pep Guardiola put out a side to counter what Lyon had to offer, as opposed to a team that were prepared to take the game to the underdog. And that's what you saw in the 3 centre-backs. The amazing thing for me as well is, and as much as that high defensive line is almost a part of City's DNA under Pep Guardiola, why you play a defensive 3 who don't have the pace that Lyon do and push them to play as high as they had, knowing the pace that Lyon had up front. And then to compound that, you cannot play the most basic rule 1 in page 1 in the art of defending. If there's no pressure on the ball, you cannot play that high line. And that's exactly where the goal came from. There's no pressure on the ball. City play this ridiculous high line, ball over the top, and now all of a sudden you're chasing the game. And admittedly, if Raheem Sterling scores and makes it 2-2, maybe we're having a different discussion right now. But when you're as big, as good a club as Manchester City, when you're as favoured as they are, sometimes you have to act like it. And I just don't. I felt for too long in that game, City didn't.
Jules, what's the reaction been like in France to the way City set up for this tie?
They couldn't really believe it, to be fair. And Lyon certainly didn't believe it. They could not believe that Pep would mirror the system, that Pep would actually adapt his team to Lyon, to Rudi Garcia's tactic. They were like, what the heck? What was going on? This should be the other way around, not them. I mean, they're so much better than Lyon. Their manager is so much better than Lyon's manager. And yet, what does he do? He just goes, oh, hang on a minute. Ooh, Toko Ekambi, that's strong, that's fast. No, I need to change everything. Do you change against Martial? Do you change against Firmino and Mane and Salah? Do you change against, I don't know, Aubameyang? You don't. What do you change against Toko Ekambi? Where is that coming from? And Lyon could not believe that Phil Foden didn't even play a minute when they had prepared themselves. They were convinced in Lyon that Foden would start and we have a key role to play like he did against Real Madrid. They were amazed that he didn't play a single second. And again, I don't understand how that happened. I don't understand how it happened that Gundogan played the whole 90 minutes in a game where he was so transparent. And again, Lyon were really hoping that Pep would mess things up. And that's exactly what he did.
Robert, how big a failure is this for Manchester City?
It is a big failure for them because this is what they were hoping to win. They didn't win the Premier League, and I kept on thinking that they would keep performing and performing. They would win the Champions League. This is what they were after. But it just was a poor performance all round. Poor from the manager, poor from the players that were out there on the field. They didn't adapt to the situation. Individually, they didn't play particularly well. And the three centre-halves of Lyon were far better than the three centre-halves of Manchester City. It's a poor performance and it's a disappointing result for them.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.